Greetings, YouTube. I don't follow the Ten Commandments, nor do I believe in original sin. And seeing as I'm not Christian, this really shouldn't come as a surprise. I have a rather interesting relationship with the concept of sin, actually. If you look at the Ten Commandments, I've broken 9 of them. The only one I haven't broken is I haven't killed anyone. I used to laugh to my friends and tell them, yet. I've actually had people ask me if I have killed someone. There's something about my continence, I guess, that makes people think that, this guy may have just taken a life. I think it's my sunny demeanor. But I also just think the whole concept of original sin is bizarre. That born into the world, brand new, the second you get here, you've already sinned. That's a strange idea to me. You're already in debt to the universe before you get here. No freebies. You don't get to be innocent. You're already a sinner. And of course, then there are the 7 deadly sins, and I probably couldn't even list them if I had to. And I'm sure that I'm guilty of practicing all or most of them at some point in my life. And I'm okay with that. At this point in my life, I follow a moral code that I'm happy with. See my video that deals with the moral rules if you'd like to listen to it. Or look up the book, The Moral Rules by Bernard Gert, G-E-R-T. And I'm alright with the fact that the 10 Commandments don't apply to me. I think the Christians got off light. The 10 Commandments is only 10 long. Have you ever seen the list the Jews have? It's a much longer list. I think I looked at an annotated list of it once, and it had like 400 lines in it. It was amazing. Many of them food related, which makes sense in a world without refrigeration and with no understanding of the germ-based disease theory. Having prohibitions against all kinds of different foods kept you alive. But I only really recognize one sin, and that is the sin of willful ignorance. I have a friend that says that there's no such thing as willful ignorance, and I disagree. Willful ignorance is that upon discovering that you don't know something, actively doing everything you can to avoid learning anything about it. Now, there's a difference if you're not interested. I know very little about sports. I know very little about sports. I'm just not interested in sports. It doesn't have any impact on my life. But I am aware of where I can look up that information if I want to, and on the rare occasions I've had to look something up, I go and do it. So I have a few sports facts kicking around inside my skull. Most of them only tangentially related to the sports themselves, mostly with the people who practice it. But willfully ignorant people are exposed to something and then they do everything in their power to avoid ever learning more about that topic. And by doing so, it allows them to maintain their worldview, often their dogmatic worldview, regardless of whether they are Christian, Jew, Muslim, Buddhist, atheist, agnostic, it doesn't matter. Once a person has adopted a dogmatic worldview, it's really hard to get them to change. I know, I used to have a number of dogmatic worldviews. I used to support the death penalty at one point, and I supported it with a real vengeance. I am now as nonviolent as I can be. While I'm not a pacifist by any stretch of the imagination, I definitely take the stance that as long as someone doesn't harm me, those I love, or someone in my vicinity that I witness an attack, I'm not going to hurt anybody. If you attack me, I'll defend myself. If I see you beating someone up, I'll defend that person if I have the capacity to do so. And if I have to take your life to do it, you made the decision to be the attacker, and I'm okay with that. I pretty much consider anyone that's an attacker as giving me implied consent to whatever abuse they receive. But willful ignorance is a fine example of people deluding themselves. And it's often practiced in politics, of course. It's practiced in, as I mentioned, dogmatic religions. And it's a key used by lots of talking heads in the world, particularly by their followers, because they just listen to what they are hearing from the talking heads, and they don't ever question what's behind those thoughts, those ideas, those taglines. I think the best example, of course, would be Rush Limbaugh's ditto heads. The very concept of calling yourself a ditto head is admitting that you are willfully ignorant, or as I've often referred to the phrase, aggressively ignorant. I've encountered people like that. I've encountered people who within a 5-minute conversation have contradicted themselves 5 and 6 times and are completely unaware of it. So willful ignorance is the only sin I recognize, and it pretty much encompasses every bad thing I've ever encountered in the world. Because if people weren't willfully ignorant, if people took the time to learn, understand themselves, the world around them, and why everyone around them does what they do, our ignorance quotient would go down a great deal.